That's why today we will request our resource persons to enlighten us and share with us the technicalities of this proposed measure. Admittedly, this is very technical. We're talking about denatured alcohol, and in the beginning, when we were analyzing this bill, it took us a while to understand what denatured alcohol is. I thought denatured alcohol is the ones we can buy in Ralph's or in the supermarket, and yun ang mga iniinom natin. Pala kabaligtaran, no? Kabaligtaran pala siya, no? Just goes to show that I'm not a technical person. Manginginom ako, but hindi ako technical person. But after analyzing it, after going through the bill very thoroughly, we think that this can be a new source of revenue for government, no? So with that, because the bill is technical in nature, we would like to request some representatives from the private sector to enlighten us what denatured alcohol is. We invited DSAP, Distilled Spirits Association of the Philippines, headed by Ms. Olivia Limpeao, the president of DSAP. We also invited a representative from Ginebra San Miguel, Mr. Lasin. All right, sorry for that technical error. I said that we invited Mr. Lasin, also from Ginebra San Miguel, to give us some idea how denatured alcohol is being produced, no? So with that, we'll start off first with our private sector resource persons. We'll reverse. Normally, we start off with government, but today we'll start off with our private sector resource persons. We'll request Ms. Olivia Limpeao to give us a lecture on denatured alcohol, as simple as possible. Again, I'm not a technical person, but let's start off with a 101 basics, how denatured alcohol is being produced, where is it coming from, where is it being used. So just basics, and then after that we can move into how denatured alcohol is being taxed, no? Because the whole point of this hearing is the taxation and potential revenue source from denatured alcohol.
Thank you very much, Senator Win Gatchalian.
Do you have a PowerPoint presentation?
No way, because we didn't have enough time. But we'll just explain it simple, layman's, diba? Para for everybody's appreciation. So I think we should start with a bit of a historical perspective on denatured alcohol. So in the past, denatured alcohol was made with what we call heads and tails. So diba, in alcohol production, there is the heads, the heart, and the tails. The heart is what we use to make distilled spirits. The heads and tails are really parts of the distillation process that has a bit more of congeners that are not really suitable for consumption because of the not so good chemicals there, the chemical composition, and also it affects the organoleptic properties of the spirit. So it's the heart that gives us the best congener profile that distinguishes one spirit from another depending on what is the substrate used. So if we use sugarcane, it becomes rum, no? After we ferment and distill, becomes rum. We use grains, becomes whiskey, and all that. So normally in the past, they would use the heads and tails to make denatured alcohol. So kasi you know the hearts, we are heavily taxed on that as spirit. So if you can consume it, it is taxed under the sin tax law, no? So we have both the specific tax and ad valorem tax. Now, the denatured alcohol is used for other purposes. So they use it for rubbing alcohol, sanitizer alcohol. It's also used for other products like cosmetics, no? So there are other uses for denatured alcohol. And in the law, it says that to be denatured, you have to add certain chemicals, diba, to render it unfit for human consumption. So either it makes it bitter, hindi mo mainom, diba? It's not good to drink, and it's also it's not good for you to consume, no? It's not good for people to consume it. So for that, there is a process where It's called the denaturing process, and the chemicals added to it, and the process is usually monitored by the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So they come to your plant, they watch how you denature the denaturing process, and that is the way that you can get away with paying excise taxes on spirits. So there is now no taxes on denatured alcohol. No, but now because the use for sanitizer alcohol and all these cosmetics, toners, whatever, right, whitening products is big. So we don't anymore just rely on the substandard alcohol. So you can also use good quality alcohol. In fact, now there's cosmetic grade alcohol, which is higher in proof than the usual food grade alcohol. But because if you want to distill to a higher proof, then you suffer in terms of organoleptic properties, no? So that one is used for cosmetics, no? A lot of cosmetic companies require cosmetic grade alcohol. That's about 100%, diba? 100% alcohol by volume. But it's like pure alcohol. So, in the past, diba, most of the denatured alcohol was domestically produced. But I think now, a lot of the cosmetic companies are also importing their denatured alcohol. So, we in the industry are not naman against the importation of denatured alcohol, no? So, they can also decide to buy locally, or because actually our domestic consumption of alcohol is not enough to support the needs of the domestic industry. So even for spirits, there's also importation of alcohol. And so there's really not enough to go around to supply the needs of the domestic market. More so the export market if you want to export our product. So we are not against the government allowing the importation of already denatured alcohol, because it really cuts the process, makes things easier for everyone. Now, with regards to added revenue, of course, we leave it to the wisdom of the legislature. If they would like to tax denatured alcohol, because really it is already outside the purview of the distilled spirits industry. So we are really here only for distilled spirits, but our members also make denatured alcohol, and once it's out of our plant, and then it goes to the other industries. So it's really not that complex. So it's really a matter of tax. But for the BIR, if it cannot be consumed, then it's not a specific tax on spirits. If it can be consumed, we are taxed under the sin tax law. So that's how they look at it. So, but with regards to denatured alcohol, it's really tax-free for now. Yes.
So just to go back, we'll concentrate first on the distillers. I think that your members are distillers.
Yes, Senator, yes.
And then, so the distillers, if I understand it correctly, they produce denatured alcohol because of it's considered waste alcohol. It's not.
Yes.
It's because in processing distilled spirits, you cannot avoid to have waste alcohol. I'm putting it very simply and just to make everyone understand. That's part of the process. Like any other processes, there's like for example in food products you also have waste.
Yes, Your Honor.
So in distilled spirits you also have waste, and denatured alcohol is considered waste alcohol.
Yes, Your Honor, because it cannot be used for the actual production of the finished product. We reserve the hearts, as we call it, to produce the distilled spirits for consumption.
And what do you call the denatured?
Heads and tails. They
heads
can
and tails.
Heads and tails.
So these heads and tails, how come there is waste? Just to make it, to give us an idea.
So we ferment the substrate. We produce low alcohol, right? That's like the wine. So when you say wine, it's fermented. Now to make it into distilled spirit, it goes through a distillation process. This one is where we evaporate all the liquids there and turn it into distilled spirit. So the distillate, now the first part is called heads. So we cut it. Parang we in the distilling industry know where to cut the heads and the tails. Kasi the congener profile of the heads and the tails are not really suitable and not really advisable to add so much of it, no? Parang we should know where to cut it, where we get the best part of the distillation process. The heads kasi has congeners that are not so good, and so we set that aside, and we also set aside the tails. And these are the parts of the distillate that we can turn into denatured alcohol. Yes.
This waste, you cannot avoid it.
You cannot avoid it, po, Your Honor. It's really part of the production process.
Okay. And so you have waste, and but you can, if you don't sell the waste, you dispose it.
No, you can put it back to the distillation process, but you always set it aside, di ba? So parang it's like we will separate the heads and tails. If we don't dispose it, it goes back to the total distillate to be distilled again. So it just goes in and out. Pero we still cut the hearts to use for the distilled spirit beverage. But sometimes if you accumulate too much, of course you'd like to sell it, diba? So we can't really add too much back to the pot that we will be distilling.
So in the process, there's always going to be waste alcohol.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yung heads and tails.
Yes, Your
Hindi
Honor.
mo siya ma-avoid talaga. That's part of the process.
It's really part of the process.
And do you dispose the heads and tails or the waste? I'll call it waste alcohol. Do you dispose it ever, or you just keep on?
We just keep on, or if you want nga, if like certain distillers, they have clients already who buy denatured alcohol, they can denature it and sell it.
Okay, so in the other option, instead of putting it back, is to sell it.
Yes, Your Honor.
To sell it as denatured alcohol.
Yes, after undergoing the denaturing process.
And how do you denature those waste, those head and tails? What is the simple process of
They just add a denaturant. So you blend it, you put it in a tank, a separate tank, then you add the denaturant, and then you mix it, and it's already considered denatured.
And then it will not be fit for human consumption.
No more, Your Honor.
Okay, and this can go to, you said it can go to rubbing alcohol,
Yes.
cosmetics,
Yes.
and even automotive. Can it go
Pero,
to
Your Honor, I think cosmetics, they're also quite strict. They're also quite strict on the standards. So I think they don't really buy from the distillers. They would buy from cosmetic grade alcohol.
Okay. But it can be used for
But it
cosmetics.
can be used also. Oo. Siguro depending on the diba, category of the cosmetic. Syempre, the higher end, the luxury ones, diba? Parang there's also
There may high end, may low end. May
low end, ganon. So I think they would also would depend on their formulation.
Correct.
also.
That's part of their commercial strategy, whether
Your
to
Honor.
use high grade or low grade.
Yes, Your Honor.
What are the markets? What are the top markets for denatured alcohol? Cosmetics will be here in the Philippines.
I think would be number one, would be the biggest would be the sanitizer alcohol. Diba na? Sanitizer alcohol, and then cosmetic, diba? Industrial. So maybe you can explain the industrial. May I request?
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
attorney.
So I know there's also for, as you mentioned, Your Honor, yung fuel. Meron din fuel, ano?
So it can be used as to blend with fuel.
No, we don't use it but to blend.
Yeah, si Mr. Lacsin, you can join in. I know are you an engineer or?
Yes, okay. Good morning, sir. I'm a chemist by profession.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So to add to Ms. Olivia's statement, we at Ginebra San Miguel were the manufacturer of the San Miguel ethyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol. So, being a chemist, I'm familiar with the process of how we make our rubbing alcohol. So, as mentioned by Miss Olivia, we fully support the statement of DSAP being a member of the group. It all starts, sir, with the raw material, which is the molasses in our case, and in the process, we do fermentation, we do distillation. Okay, in the process of that fermentation and distillation, ethanol, which is the ingredient of the alcohol, we don't produce only ethanol, we produce other impurities. So that's why it's inherent in the process to produce the bad alcohol or the impurities, or what we call the heads and tails. Okay, so in the process of distillation, you separate the heads and tails from the clean alcohol. Okay, so as mentioned also by Ma'am Olivia, there are different grades of cosmetic alcohol, or the one we use for the denatured alcohol. So for the lower grade, they use heads and tails. But in our case, we use the hearts. We denature it. Okay, we denature it to make it unfit for human consumption. That's to distinguish the alcohol that we use for our spirits and the one we use for our rubbing alcohol. Okay, so what do we do with our heads and tails? Yes, some industries use it for rubbing alcohol, but in our case, we don't use that in our rubbing alcohol. We use it for vinegar, so we sell it, but we denature it first, and then we sell it to our vinegar suppliers. Okay, so yes, the process in our company, we add a high Bitrex. We call it Bitrex. It's a very bitter compound, so to our hearts, to make it unfit for human consumption. And then after the addition of the Bitrex, or the bad tasting chemical, we now produce the San Miguel ethyl rubbing alcohol. So that's the one we sell to our consumers, mostly hospitals.
Meron bang San Miguel rubbing alcohol?
Yes, sir.
Baka mainom ng mga manginginom yun.
Malinaw po dun sa label. Yes, sir. Malinaw po dun sa label na it's for external use and not for
drinking.
Yes po. And before, as mentioned, we have to denature it first. Opo, to distinguish it from the alcohol that we use for our spirits. So, yun po yung proseso na ginagawa namin sa aming facility. So, as also mentioned po dito sa position paper that we support po sa DSAP, ito pong aming ginagawa is sa local alcohol. And statement po dito sa position paper is meron po kaming gustong ilapit na yung gagamitin po sana rin is mag-import ng already denatured alcohol. So yun po yung pong gusto naming ipasama dito sa pinag-uusapan po natin ngayon. Kasi right now po, ang nakasaad po dito is we denature locally yung pong alcohol na kinukuha natin. Opo. So we support po yung nasa position paper po ng DSAP na we import the already denatured alcohol para po pagdating dito denatured na siya. And beneficial po ito sa amin sa manufacturing sa industry kasi medyo mura po ito compared sa domestically denatured alcohol. Tapos po wala naman po tayong nakikitang parang madideprive po ang ating government dun sa excise tax kasi pag po ginamit natin ito matatax naman po yung produkto in case po na kasi kaya pong ihiwalay yung denaturant sa alcohol. So pag inihiwalay po ito at ginamit sa liquor, matataksan din po yung liquor na pinaggamitan po nito. Yun po naman sir yung magiging process. And that process is very expensive and it's not ideal for a beverage company to pursue that process na ihihiwalay po ulit natin yung denaturant dun sa alcohol. So, yun po Senator Gatchalian yung nasa sa loob po ng manufacturer pagdating po dito sa pinag-uusapan natin ngayon.